Hello everyone, and
Hello there.
boy, I can't wait for the hate this video is going to generate from the 3D printing simps and the GW fanboys.
Oh boy.
I'm making this video because a lot of you won't shut up about 3D printing in some of my videos, and it's getting frankly really f***ing annoying. So
That one on the top right is annoying me. Make minis to your heart's size, sell them for profit.
let's talk.
Don't buy a fucking printer and
The Warhammer.
and partake in goddamn copyright infringement.
As of late, 3D printing is all the rage. Be it for printing bits for armies, printing Trench Crusade minis, Battletech minis that don't exist yet, or just playing by the rule of cool and giving the middle finger to GW. Also, I will eventually talk about the tariffs in GW in a future video if GW increases the prices. Again.
Yeah.
So for 3D printing, I have a few things I want to say about it, some good and some bad. And because I know how YouTube works, let's start with the bad. The first thing that annoys me is the 3D printing simps and their unnatural shilling for it being the greatest thing ever.
It's not.
Commenting things like, "This video is useless, just get a 3D printer," or "You're an idiot for giving GW money and not getting a 3D printer." And finally, "Stop playing Warhammer, it sucks." If you want to see that video, consider subscribing. But listen up, Chuckle Nuts, if someone's interested in Warhammer, what do you think they would rather do? Spend $40 to $60 for either a single miniature or a squad of miniatures? Excuse me, whatever new excuse price GW comes up with, even though they already have a near 32% profit margin. Or spending $300 to $600 on a 3D printer for something they might not even like. And that's not including the cost of resin, a curing station, and all the other extra crap you might need for a 3D printer.
There's a lot.
Asking someone who's never played a simulator game before, "Hey, do you want to play Arma? Or do you want to play the buggy, expensive mess that is Star Citizen?" Don't get me wrong, I still like Star Citizen for all of its jank, and don't judge me, this is over the course of 6 years. But this is the one thing that
I feel personally attacked here on this video. Like not a little bit. Like I kind of feel touched in a bad way. Let's see here. So while we're talking on it, Warhammer's here's Game Workshop's site, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is this? For 100 pounds, whatever. I don't know what the conversion rate is right now. Right? 145 Space Marines. Go Death Watch. What do you buy? $25 for a single one. So for someone like me, that I am a Warhammer light person. I've kind of dabbled around the edges of it. Chaplain helmet I'm still working on. I've done a Space Marine, like a full-size Space Marine helmet. I kind of want to start messing around with miniatures. I kind of want to learn this just for one, just a way to relax, right? Like, and just zone out here with some paint and a big ass magnifying glass because I'm old. And want to learn how to paint these things because it's relaxing and it's chill. I wouldn't say go out and buy a 3D printer just for the fact of just to print miniatures. Like that is an absolute waste of time and money. If you already have a 3D printer and you want to like start experimenting with either resin or FDM to try and do that stuff, I don't see a problem with that. People that have problems with that are just
ever living hell out of me about the 3D printing.
Get out of my head.
The stupid retort of, "Oh, just get a 3D printer. It's so easy and cheaper in the long run." Well, not everyone is a hardcore war gamer or will be a hardcore war gamer. So getting a 3D printer is usually not in the cards for most people because 3D printing itself is a hobby on its own. If you want a 3D printer, you have to have extra stuff like a drying station, cleaning station, curing station, proper ventilation, protective gear, and many other things.
For resin, yeah.
Just add to the cost. Believe me, I want to get a 3D printer as much as the next guy, but the problem is I don't have a designated space to put one because, like I said earlier, you need proper ventilation because printer resin is toxic as printers are kinda too, but I would rather get a resin printer when I can, whenever the that is. 3D printing as I see it right now is more of a hobby rather than an accessory to Warhammer because you have to learn how to do things like balancing the print bed if it goes out of whack. I've heard all the horror stories involving the print bed shifting at some point.
There are printers out there you still need to manually level the bed, but most printers you buy now do it automatically.
And a 12-hour print getting ruined, which then means you just wasted resin that can't really be reused. So then you have to spend extra time curing and cleaning it because it's an environmental hazard if you don't. Then you also have to tune the print line size, which can either make miniatures great or god awful.
Don't have any.
Why they don't even bother with some of their Forge World miniatures now? Recast 3D prints at a significant markup.
If that, yeah, I mean, that is an actual Games Workshop piece. That's garbage.
They're Forge World
Right.
printers now.
Like, come on. If you're at least not going to make a better product, don't get mad when people fucking start
Recast 3D print
going,
markup.
if I can print this myself and look just as good, why not just do it?
Because even the smallest amount of pressure can break some details. Ask me how I know this. Also, this one is really important depending on how thick the print is. If the resin doesn't cure all the way through, eventually that 3D printed Warhound might just start cracking, and then all that effort you spent painting it will be for nothing.
I'd cry.
Just ask Ickbard how he knows this from experience. If you really want to get into
I would
thick of
cry.
it, you can even design your own 3D prints, but that can take a while because you have to teach yourself how to use Blender or CAD, and that can take months or even years to get to the standard that you're probably expecting. It's similar to how I always tell new Warhammer collectors to not be too hard on yourself. You're not going to be a golden demon level painter from the get-go, but if we get
Hey, maybe I will.
annoying parts about 3D printing, then yeah, 3D printing is great. It's just everyone needs to remember it's not for everyone. Nor can everyone invest the time and money for a 3D printer compared to a $40 to $60 miniature to start off with. Yes, you can go on Etsy or any of the 3D printing websites, and people will print stuff on demand for you at a cheaper cost opposed to GW minis, but you also got to take into account taxes and shipping, along with the postal service treating your package like it's the Olympic shot put. You can also
Well, also then you have to worry about Games Workshop, who is going after all of those Etsy channel, like those Etsy shops. If they put Warhammer or anything, any tagline to do with Warhammer in that shop or on that item, Games Workshop just came after you in a civil way. It was like, what is it? It's in they're suing them in Florida. Basically, they're allowed to put all of the complainants on one case instead of going after each individual seller.
Also ask a friend to print it for you for a fee, but even then you first have to find a friend who owns a 3D printer. Who am I kidding? We play Warhammer. What the f are friends? It's not like we even go outside to begin with because that pile of miniatures ain't gonna paint itself. But anyways, it's that time again. That's right, it's time for some audience interaction to help boost it to the almighty YouTube algorithm. So if you're enjoying this video so far, please like and subscribe because it only helps this elaborate post of the channel grow. Along with maybe joining my Discord server if you care about that. And
Dude, I'm already in like 500 Discord servers. I can't stand it.
But let me know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts about 3D printing? Or what do you own that's 3D printed? Or do you have any 3D printer recommendations? So now with all the negative stuff out of the way, because that's how YouTube works, let's talk about the good things about 3D printing. The first, most obvious point is it pays for itself if you're serious about it in the long run. Once the headache of getting a 3D printer dialed in is over, you can print pretty much as many miniatures as you want, which just makes the pile of shame worse. One of the things a lot of people use 3D printing for, besides sticking it to GW, is printing various bits, scenery, and upgrades for their miniatures because GW no longer makes them. If I had a 3D printer, I would definitely be printing a ton of bits for my Dark Angels, like helmets and various weapons, because honestly, the stuff GW gives us for the upgrade sprues is kinda and expensive, and also always out of stock. It would also be nice if there were more sources of Thunderhammers besides the old Assault Terminators and the Deathwing Command Squad that only had one of them. So for now, printing is the way to go, just gotta find someone that makes them.
Yeah, I mean, so how does Game Workshop get away with getting mad at people if they're printing off things that they don't even make anymore because something broke? Oh crap, I need to replace that. Oh, Games Workshop doesn't sell it anymore. What am I gonna do? Oh, let me just print the piece.
Up is the part everyone never shuts up about. Printing miniatures. With 3D printing becoming more popular, a ton of 3D modelers are just starting to make 3D printable designs for people to buy and paint. There are a ton of awesome designs all over the internet, some free and some at a fee, but think about it, you can print as many as you want for a one-time fee. Like a little game that I'm sure a lot of you have heard about, French Crusade, which honestly feels like a step in the right direction for miniature war games to take, since you can't stop people from 3D printing stuff like mad. Continuing off the printing minis train, another good use of—
So yeah, exactly. So you know what? Instead of that's a perfect example. Like that's evolving right there. Like, okay, we're not going to stop people from printing. So we're just going to sell you the file so you can print it. They still make their fucking money. That's genius. Games Workshop, shut down your shop or shut down your live stream or your YouTube channel because God forbid you printed something that looks like one of our IPs. Instead of saying, hey, we'll sell you the STL files, the regular licensing, like private use only. You can't turn around and remix it. You can't turn around and sell it. You can't do any of that shit. You can't go in your Etsy store and I'm going to sell the prints that I've made. No, fam.
An alternate designer pose because monopost sucks.
Right.
The printing minis train.
You know, trench pilgrims, that's what it was.
Printing minis that are either retired, an alternate designer pose because monopost sucks, or just stuff that doesn't have a design. As a lot of you know, I really like Tyberos the Red Wake, and unfortunately, he's now legend. Rest in peace, 60-hour kit bash. Well, for cases like this, 3D printing has got you covered. Then there's also the Chaplain Dreadnought and just interesting Dreadnought designs in general floating out there. It's really kind of stupid how GW even sends cease and desist letters to 3D designers that make something legally distinct from GW products, or even for something they no longer sell. I sometimes randomly go on Etsy and eBay and just look up 3D printed miniatures that I might want to buy, but this is more or less for Battletech because unlike someone, Catalyst Games Labs is somewhat okay with 3D printing because there's some mechs that still don't have newer sculpts or even minis at all, along with just having a preference for the different designs that I'm never going to accept because it's an affront to God, or I just think this design looks cooler than this design. And of course, here's the 3D printed mechs I have so far. Up next is Terrain, the one thing we all hate buying from GW or refuse to buy from GW because one,
a little defense line. It's the same thing. They literally just duplicated it and printed it on, I'll just make one copy, pasta it, 4 or 5 times. Actually, more than that, right? We're going to sell it for $80 fucking dollars. Are you serious? $80?
it's too f***ing expensive to fill out a game board with just GW terrain, or they rarely ever sell terrain consistently. Want that really cool landing pad or tower you saw at your game store? Well, f*** you, we don't sell that anymore. With 3D printing, you can print as much terrain as you want. I just hope you have enough space for it. And finally, 3D printing opens up the possibilities for other hobbies, like model railroading. What, you thought I wasn't going to mention my first addiction? Well, you thought wrong. Lately, I've been seeing pretty much anything and everything being 3D printed for model railroading, like trees, buildings, railroad ties, turntables, rolling stock, and even locomotives. Truly, model railroading is seeing a revival and boom with the advent of 3D printing. But as someone who likes HON3, aka the Rabid Bloodhound scale, since HON3 is expensive and mostly brass, I'm starting to see some modelers make 3D printed locomotives and rolling stock, although for the locomotives you do need a donor locomotive. But as someone who wants to make my own layout, all the extra little bits and bobs that would normally be expensive like buildings, people, and random bits of scenery, having all that now being cheaply available thanks to 3D printing is honestly a godsend, because I am not paying $20 for a few small figures that may get lost when I move the modules. This is also because
$22 for fucking cows and sheep.
Those add up really fast.
They're like this big.
Also be the bane of every model railroader's existence, because it can sometimes be even more expensive than the trains and rolling stock. So 3D printing is like the second coming of railroad Jesus for us. But yeah, that's my thoughts on 3D printing and how it can be both good and bad. Now shut up and stop saying get a 3D printer in the comments on my videos because... Anyways, thanks for watching the video, and a huge thank you to the Gigaist of the Chads right here, the Costcodian Guard, keepers of the Costco hot dogs, aka the channel members and Twitch subscribers. So if you too want to be a Giga Chad, consider becoming a channel.
Alright,
today.
pretty good, dude. I was
cells of the Discord and other things. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, but I have to go. I'll see you all in the next video, and remember, when you play a Warhammer, being poor is a choice. That is, of course, unless you have a 3D printer. Okay, bye!
Unless, of course, you have a 3D printer.